We begin the news at 5 with still unfolding breaking news at the U.S. Capitol. A car, the one you see there, slammed into two Capitol police officers before hitting a barrier on Constitution Avenue. This is on the north side of the Capitol complex. One of those officers died. Capitol Police shot and killed the driver. WUSA 9 has you covered on this big story. Good evening, I'm Adam Longo.
And I'm Larry Miller, and we just learned the officer killed is William Billy Evans. He's been with the Capitol Police Force for 18 years, and this is the latest blow to a department that's already been through so much this year. In the last 45 minutes, Capitol and D.C. Police plus Secret Service held a procession for Officer Evans. This right along the National Mall. We saw dozens of police cars and hundreds of officers lined up to honor him.
And CBS News is now confirming that the suspect police killed is 25-year-old Noah Green. He is from Indiana, but apparently has some kind of ties to Virginia. We don't know exactly where or what those ties are. Capitol Police say after crashing into that barrier, Green got out of the car and then lunged at officers with a knife. A U.S. official involved in the investigation says Green has no known criminal history, and we still don't know his motive.
The crime scene is at the intersection of Constitution and Delaware Avenues in Northeast Washington. We got an update from Capitol Police just a short time ago. Kobe Satterfield listened in on that briefing. And Kobe, what exactly did you learn?
We learned a lot, Larry, including, as of just within the hour, who this officer is who was killed in today's incident. You can take a look at his photo. Capitol Police say Officer Billy Evans died in the attack at the North Barricade today. He had been with the department for 18 years. He died after police say a lone assailant rammed his car into he and another officer who is currently in the hospital. The suspect, according to CBS, is 25-year-old Noah Green of Indiana. Police say right after Green entered the North Barricade of the Capitol and rammed his car into the two U.S. Capitol Police officers before hitting the barricade barrier. You can see up close that crime scene right here. Police say Green then got out of the car yielding a knife and started running and lunging towards officers. The suspect, police say, did not respond to verbal commands and was shot and killed by police. As for the safety of the community tonight, here's what D.C. Police Chief Conti had to say.
Not appear to be an ongoing threat. Obviously, we're in the very early stages of our investigation. We need to obviously understand the motivation behind this senseless act. So the responsible police department will certainly be doing that.
MPD's Homicide Division, as well as Internal Affairs Division, is taking over the investigation. Of course, we are in the early stages of this investigation, but police say this attack does not appear to be terrorism related, and the suspect does not appear to be known to Capitol Police or D.C. Police. As for the security posture surrounding the Capitol, police say there will be no enhanced security. It will remain as it is. Acting Police Chief Pittman for Capitol Police, though, is asking for the community to pray for the Capitol Police Department because, as we know, has been a very, very hard year for them.
Colby, you mentioned that security posturing. We can see behind you there is Constitution Avenue, and the barricades are up. We know that both Constitution and Independence Avenues only recently were reopened because of the heightened security after the insurrection on January 6th. So I wonder if Constitution Avenue being closed right now is part of that continuing security apparatus because of today, or if it's still closed because of that crime scene that they're investigating, if you happen to know.
Yeah, I'm not sure, Adam, but I do know going down Constitution 2 days ago, I drove down this road and it was open. The barricades were down. So it would appear at this time that the barricades that still remain up right now that say stop are up following today's incident.
Kobe, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
All right, WUSA 9's Tom Dempsey is talking to lawmakers about what we saw today. So, Tom, what are you hearing from them?
Well, Adam, as this was all unfolding in this sort of area behind me, you can see at the Capitol, we do know the Senate, of course, was in recess. So I've spoken to staffers for the last several hours, and many of them were working from home earlier today. Senator Mark Warner and Tim Kaine from Virginia, Senator Ben Cardin and Chris Van Hollen in Maryland. They were not at the Capitol earlier today as this was all happening. But if you want to look behind me, you can see all the security that's still out here. The car the suspect was driving is actually a little off in the distance, just over the white SUV you can see there. It's still out at the scene here at this hour. But again, the Senate was in recess today, so none of the Senate teams we've reached out to None of the teams were at the Capitol earlier today, but that didn't stop Senator Mark Warner from Virginia and Senator Tim Kaine from posting statements to Twitter earlier today. Senator Mark Warner highlighting the work of the Capitol Police and saying he's praying for the officers involved in all of this earlier today. And Senator Tim Kaine also sending similar words, saying his heart is with the family of the officer who died today. And he also, of course, highlighted the incredible bravery of the officers. And as well to the Maryland Senators Chris Van Hollen and Ben Cardin. They were also not at the Capitol earlier today. But again, a live look at the scene right now. We can see all sorts of security still out here hours after this all happened. National Guard troops. We see U.S. Capitol Police right behind me as well. And again, for the perspective of where we are, this is Delaware and Constitution, and just over one of the SUVs here, the suspect's car remains, and we've seen it. It's right up against the barrier. This is the Senate side of the U.S. Capitol building, and it's still out here with the trunk up out here as security and officers and investigators are going over this scene, coming through all the details that are out here right now. But if there's anything that was fortunate about all this, as this was all playing out, guys, again, none of the Senate teams that we've spoken to were actually at the Capitol today. Guys?
Yeah, I know lawmakers and staff, I'm sure, unnerved, not knowing what this suspect's motivation was. All right, Tom, thank you.
Just a few weeks ago, we saw the fencing around the U.S. Capitol come down. Of course, it had been in place since the insurrection back in January, and now Congress may have to discuss putting that extra layer of protection back up again. Removing that fence was a relief for people living around the U.S. Capitol, but do they still have those same feelings right now? Matthew Torres is live near the Capitol with more from reaction from neighbors. Matthew?
Well, Larry, first off, they were completely shocked when learning about what happened to the officer, one resident describing it as unbelievable, knowing this type of incident would happen here at the Capitol just months after the January 6th insurrection. And like you said, this comes at a time when the public spaces around the Capitol have slowly started opening back up. There's been demands to completely take down the fencing, but after what happened today, neighbors fear that may not be the case. They understand the need for increased security around the Capitol, but as one ANC commissioner in the Capitol Hill neighborhood tells me, people would be disappointed if we start seeing the green spaces closing down again. There wasn't much neighbors and visitors could do this afternoon. Law enforcement quickly shutting down entry points to the Capitol grounds. People who drove here hundreds of miles away were disappointed. Security turned them away until learning about what happened to the officer. They say since January 6th, to witness another security lockdown like this is disturbing and uneasy.
It's kind of disconcerting considering what happened in January 6th, and I didn't even think anything like this would happen coming down here.
It's sad, very sad, and it's very hard to be here in the Capitol with all this going on, period.
It makes me feel like, it's not really safe anymore, considering I brought children, to bring children to a wonderful place like this.
And we are here at 3rd and Constitution, where we watched that procession coming down here with the officers lining the streets. Here at this angle, from our perspective, it seems things are calmer, at least on this side. We have people out and about again, and I wouldn't be surprised if there were people here who did not realize what happened, as earlier this afternoon, we broke the news to them. Back to you.
It's an unfortunate, a new reality that people living near the Capitol are having to deal with these attacks on the Capitol, which is a representation of our government. Certainly everyone wants this to be resolved peacefully, but most importantly, people that live nearby will be having to deal with this for days and weeks. Ultimately, we want the people to be safe, but there is an issue of whether or not additional fencing makes sense given everything that we've seen over the past few days and weeks. Matthew Torres, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Yeah, and to go to that part of the conversation, just this ebb and flow that's constantly happening about security posturing and how much is too much. This is the people's house. Everyone in America deserves access to the Capitol. How much can you increase the security perimeter and the apparatus around the Capitol while still allowing for it to be the people's house? I think the investigation we're likely to see come over the days and weeks will show us, where these officers were positioned, what they can work on, what things that they can do to improve their security posture while still keeping this a very open environment.
And having the opportunity to speak with a security expert earlier this afternoon, he was clear that what we saw, while tragic, was a demonstration of lessons learned after the insurrection. Police were able to respond quickly. They responded aggressively, and this could have been a lot worse given the circumstances. And so when talking with that expert, he said this is no doubt, while unfortunate, a victory because it demonstrates that Capitol Police, the National Park Service, and PD have all learned important lessons after the insurrection. Yeah, all of this as we grieve this officer, a sixth now Capitol Police officer who has died since going back to 1998, the fourth this year. Now, you may remember another driver who was killed several years ago during a confrontation at the Capitol. 34-year-old Miriam Carey crashed her car into barricades at the White House and then again at the Capitol. Police opened fire on Hill and she was killed. Her family says Carey suffered from depression. Her 19-month-old daughter was in the car at the time, fortunately was not hurt. And of course, we can't forget the two Capitol Police officers who were killed back in 1998. Officer Jacob Chestnut and Detective John Gibson were killed in the line of duty when an armed man stormed past a security checkpoint and opened fire. 4 days later, Chestnut and Gibson lay in honor in the Capitol Rotunda. They were then buried with honors at Arlington National Cemetery. That incident, one of many that led to the creation of the Capitol Visitors Complex. Well, today's crash happened less than 3 months after that deadly insurrection, and now a second man has been arrested on charges related to the assault on a D.C. police officer during that attack. The Justice Department says that 38-year-old Daniel Rodriguez of Fontana, California, was taken into custody Wednesday by the FBI's Los Angeles field office. Federal prosecutors say Rodriguez used a flagpole and a stun gun-like weapon to assault Officer Michael Fanone. Officer Fanone was dragged into the crowd and beaten while attempting to defend the U.S. Capitol building from a mob of pro-Trump rioters. Thomas F. Civic of Buffalo, New York, was arrested for allegedly stealing Fanone's badge and radio while the officer was being attacked. WUSA 9 is going to have much more from the Capitol tonight. We continue to learn new details about today's apparent attack. Follow our continuing coverage on our WUSA 9 app and WUSA9.com. There are still a lot more things to talk about here ahead at 5. Misinformation, you know that travels fast online. Our Verify team is here to debunk any false information out there about this attack on Capitol Police officers. Plus, some big news on the fight against COVID-19. The CDC released new guidance on traveling. I'll tell you when you can travel without quarantining.
You'll need a jacket stepping out this evening. Temperatures on the chilly side, and it gets really cold tonight, but I am tracking a warm-up for the end of the holiday weekend.
Updating you on our top story, a U.S. Capitol Police officer has been killed after he was rammed by a car outside of the Capitol today. Police say 25-year-old Noah Green got into an accident, lunged at officers with a knife after getting out of his car. Officers opened fire and he was killed. It is unclear what the motive was. National Guard officers were called in to secure the Capitol, which was put on lockdown. Congress is in recess right now, so many staffers who would have normally been on the job were working remotely because of Good Friday and the Easter holiday weekend. We're following this story closely. Our reporters are gathering more information as we speak. We'll be able to update you just a little bit later in the newscast. When breaking news happens, misinformation can spread fast online. WUSA 9 is home to the Verified team that sorts out fact from fiction. Evan Kozlov joining us live right now with more on that. Hey, Evan.
Well, hey, Larry. Yeah, in situations like this, it's just so important that we stick to the facts and not speculate. So that's what we're going to do here today. We're going to do so by separating what is confirmed as true, what is confirmed as false, and what right now is still up in the air. So let's dive right in. Show you the big board and start with what is confirmed, verified as true. The first thing is that the threat has passed. This is according to the U.S. Capitol Police. According to the acting chief, there's no ongoing threat right now. So that is verified as true. Meanwhile, let's move on to what is verified as false. There are claims on social media that the attack breached the Capitol, kind of like what happened on January 6th. This is false. As we've been saying, this all happened over at the checkpoint. Lastly, here's what, at this point, we can't say for sure. And the big question, post claiming that this was political or this was terrorism or is connected to January 6th, but it's really important to say that just at this point, we don't have that information. So if you see that on social media, don't spread it. Now, of course, we're going to keep you updated as we learn more, but we're going to only stick with the facts. Guys, I'll send it back to you.
Evan Kozlov keeping us honest. Evan, thank you so much.
Now let's get to some other top stories that are still developing in our area tonight. There's been yet another shooting in southeast Washington. 3 men wounded today on Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue. One of them rushed to the hospital in critical condition. Police say they're looking for a dark-colored SUV connected to the shooting.
If you know that vehicle, please send the information to us. Let us do what we need to do to bring those individuals to account for their actions.
Do you have an age range for today's victims?
All the victims are in their 30s, it appears to be, but adults. They're all adults.
The 2 other shooting victims are being treated for injuries but are expected to survive. No word yet on possible suspects or a motive.
Turning right now to another big story and getting you further along on the road to recovery. The CDC has issued an update on travel. But let's emphasize that this new guidance is only for folks that are fully vaccinated against COVID-19. So here's what we're getting from the CDC. Within the United States, fully vaccinated people do not need to get tested for COVID-19 before or after they travel, and they do not need to self-quarantine after a trip. For international travel, fully vaccinated folks do not need a COVID test prior to travel unless it's required by the place they're entering. But they should get a negative test before they return to the United States.
We must balance this guidance with the fact that most Americans are not yet fully vaccinated, which is likely contributing to our rising cases. And that means we have to continue to reinforce messages about the critical importance of COVID-19 prevention measures.
The CDC says all travelers, fully vaccinated or not, should keep wearing face coverings on planes, trains, buses, and other public transportation as well.
Well, listen, as advertised, it was cold.
Yeah,
we got up this morning. I mean, the wind was biting too, but Chester, it sounds like we're going to be able to get over this pretty quick.
Yeah, 12 more hours of really cold weather. That's it. So we're counting down the clock here. And then we start our warming trend. By tomorrow afternoon, we replace today's chilly 40s with relatively milder 50s and a lot less wind. And by the time we get into Sunday, Easter Sunday, temperatures flirting with 70 degrees. That is great news right now. It is high pressure. It's still blowing in a strong northwesterly, and it's coming in with gusto. That's why we've had that chilly air all day long. It's in the 40s, but it feels like it's in the 30s. Look at our gusts right now, still gusting to 36 at National, 25 Gaithersburg, 33 mile-per-hour wind gusts at Leesburg. These are gusts reported right now by the Weather Observation Network across our part of the DMV here, and you can see temperatures will continue to plummet tonight by 11 o'clock. If you are out here on a Friday evening, layers for sure. We're down into the 30s, but it'll feel like it's in the 20s with that wind that continues. Tomorrow morning, a lot of spots will be in the 20s to start the day. We'll bump back up into the 50s, though, as we head into the afternoon hours with some scatter clouds. Otherwise, it's a pretty nice day heading into your Saturday. There's your planner. Out the door early. Getting in that morning run, yeah, it's still chilly, but a little bit less wind. Temps 30s. We go 40s by lunchtime and 50s rolling into the afternoon hours. Tomorrow's high temperature a little below what is considered average, but 56, not too bad here. It's a little chilly. We'll call it chilly, but compared to today, which was just downright cold, that's an improvement with mostly sunny skies. Warmer still on Sunday with highs, again, 60s to around 70 degrees. Cookouts this weekend, you're fine, you're good. Yeah, a little chilly on Saturday, otherwise you're good to go. Running forecast, a lot less wind, so that means an improvement for your Saturday, and Sunday looks good, and we'll keep the nice weather going into Monday for the outdoor exercise. 3-day outlook showing pretty good stuff. No yellow weather alerts, no rain, certainly no snowflakes like what we saw the other day. Bright and brisk Saturday, looking good Sunday, and then there's Monday at a pleasant 70 degrees. If you can extend the weekend, some people have, into Easter Monday, you're looking pretty good. Saturday planner showing that bright sky throughout your Saturday. Looks like a really nice day, and there's the 7-day. Next chance for rain comes all the way down here at the end of the 7-day outlook. So there we are with warmer temperatures beginning on Sunday. It's back above average. See the average right there in the corner, 62. We're well above that Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. We may squeeze out a shower or two Tuesday or Wednesday, but really the rain chances ramp up towards Thursday and Friday. It does look like we'll have a lot of April showers around as we close out the week, and temperatures will cool down towards the end of the week there, with highs only in the 60s for Thursday and Friday. Back to you all.
Would have been great weather for baseball, but forget opening day. Now the whole opening series is postponed. Charlotte McBride has the latest on coronavirus in the Nats clubhouse.
And our coverage on this attack on Capitol Police continues. We know that one officer is dead, another is hurt. The suspect was killed by police. Much more after the break.
More bad news for Nats fans. Opening day is going to have to wait even longer. After more contact tracing, the team just confirmed that the whole opening series against the Mets is going to be postponed. WSI 9 anchor Charlotte McBride joining us now. So, Charlotte, when is it looking like they'll finally start the season?
Well, Adam, if all goes as planned, the Nationals are hoping to be back in this ballpark to open their season on Monday against the Braves. Now, things haven't exactly gone as planned so far, but we will keep our fingers crossed. There are a few new developments today within the Nationals organization. Here is what we know. There are now 4 confirmed players who have tested positive for COVID-19. One of them has shown symptoms of a slight fever, but according to Nationals general manager Mike Rizzo, he is doing much better. 5 players are in mandatory quarantine due to contact tracing, as well as 1 staff member. If all of today's tests are negative for those still eligible to play, Rizzo hopes the MLB will approve some workouts for the team this weekend in preparation of them playing Monday. Rizzo also adds that without those 9 players, the roster will see some significant changes for the start of their season.
We've got a really good team that we're anxious to see play, and you know, the depth of this organization will have to get us out of the gates sooner rather than later. But we're excited to play baseball and real baseball games with real fans in the stands.
So again, the Nationals are waiting for yesterday's test results, and Mike Rizzo believes that if all of those tests are negative, MLB will allow them to work out tomorrow in preparation for a possible opening day on Monday. Adam?
Got our fingers crossed. Charlotte, thanks.
When we come back, a robbery at a Taco Bell ends with a crash near RFK Stadium, and police say 2 kids were in the car the entire time. We'll have the details. And we're staying on top of breaking news at the U.S. Capitol. A 25-year-old man killed a police officer when he rammed a barrier. Hear how the police response today compares to the insurrection at the Capitol back in January.
Now to some developing news that we're following. Police say a suspect put the lives of a couple of kids in danger late last night. We're told it started when somebody tried to rob a Taco Bell in Seat Pleasant. Police say he sped away from the restaurant in a car with a woman and 2 young kids inside. Officers caught up with him when he crashed near RFK Stadium on C Street Southeast. The suspect went to the hospital. He should be okay. The kids and woman in the car are apparently okay as well. In Taiwan, this train went off the rails with 350 people inside. We know at least 36 of them died after it crashed into the side of a tunnel. Rescue crews spent hours searching for survivors in those mangled cars. The crash happened on the first day of Tomb Sweeping Festival. That's a religious holiday when people travel to their hometowns to pay their respects at the graves of their ancestors. This is the worst rail disaster in Taiwan in more than 30 years.
Hours after a deadly attack on the U.S. Capitol, police officers, investigators are trying to answer some big questions tonight. Why would someone do this? And what can they do to make sure this doesn't happen again? Thanks for joining us on the news at 5:30. I'm Larry Miller along with Adam Longo. Still plenty of unanswered questions tonight. A suspect rammed a vehicle into a checkpoint on the north side of the U.S. Capitol complex, but not before striking 2 U.S. Capitol police officers. One is dead. The other remains in critical condition in the hospital. After eventually slamming into that checkpoint, the suspect was shot and killed by police. Here's Acting MPD Chief Robert Conti.
It does not appear to be terrorism related, but obviously we'll continue to investigate.
Our team is covering this story from every angle.
That's right. We begin tonight with Colby Satterfield. So, Colby, do we have any idea about a possible motive at this point?
Not that police are saying at this time, Adam. They are saying that it is very early in this investigation. It only happened a few hours ago, but they say they can rule out that they believe this is not terrorism related. Within the last hour, we have learned more about who this suspect is. CBS is reporting 25-year-old Noah Green from Indiana is the suspect. Police say he wasn't known to either the Capitol Police or DC Police. Police say this all happened shortly after 1 this afternoon when Green slammed his car into 2 officers at a vehicle checkpoint on the north side of the Capitol. Police say Green then got out of the car and lunged at officers with a knife. At least 1 officer shot at Green, who died. Both officers and the suspect were taken to the hospital, where 1 of the officers was pronounced dead. Capping off what Capitol Police Acting Chief Pittman says has been an extremely challenging year.
It's been an extremely difficult time for U.S. Capitol Police after the events of January 6th and now the events that have occurred here today. So I ask that you keep our U.S. Capitol Police family in your thoughts and prayers.
Satterfield, WUSA 9.
All right, Colby, thank you.
Our coverage continues with Tom Dempsey at the U.S. Capitol. Tom, you spoke with lawmakers after the crash today. What was their reaction to everything that they saw and heard?
Well, Larry, it's interesting to note that the Senate remained in recess as this all played out earlier today. So all the Senate offices we've reached out to, Senator Tim Kaine, Senator Mark Warner in Virginia, as well as Senator Ben Cardin and Chris Van Hollen in Maryland, none of the senators or their staffers were inside the Capitol as this was all unfolding earlier today. But again, for reference, we're standing near the intersection of Delaware and Constitution. This is on the Senate side of the Capitol building right now. We actually just saw a tow truck move into this scene. The barriers still remain up, and the suspect's car is actually right beyond that white SUV you might be able to see right now. So it looks like law enforcement and security are working to remove the suspect's car as I speak this hour here at the Capitol. But as you can imagine, all the senators that we've spoken to have posted statements following all of this. Senator Chris Van Hollen of Maryland, again, who was not at the Capitol at the time of all this, with the Senate in recess right now, but he was posting and saying his thoughts were with the police officers following this incident at the Capitol today, and also keeping the families of the police officers in his thoughts and prayers. But again, you can see hours after this all happened, you can see the law enforcement still very much out here. We can see Capitol Police standing right near us, as well as we've seen National Guard troops going back and forth from where we're standing. And right now the focus does appear to be where the suspect's car is. That suspect's car is still right up against the barriers on the Senate side of the Capitol right now, and it looks like we should be seeing that car moving away from the scene very shortly. So we'll be following the updates, and we'll also be reaching out to some of the leaders to get some more reactions as to what happened today, guys.
Tom Dempsey reporting live for us tonight. Tom, thank you so much.
So quite an understatement to say that a lot has happened at the Capitol this year. Of course, the insurrection, January 6th, National Guard troops being brought in, fencing went up. Some of it has since come back down. I want to bring in investigative reporter Nathan Baca into the conversation. He's been following all of these developments very closely. You know, Nathan, the outer perimeter just came down at the end of last month.
Well, Dan, with that, it left 2 vehicle entrances to get into the Capitol. Now, the one where today's incident happened on Constitution at the end of Delaware, that's the quieter of the 2. Now, even before January 6th, the barricade would not have that much pedestrian traffic. That's because the area between the Senate and the Senate office buildings to the north of the Capitol, most of the staffers there take tunnels, but as we previously reported, the House and the Senate were in recess. Now, the southern entrance between the House and its office buildings has many more people walking because they don't have as many tunnels over there. Now, since the Capitol attack, I've walked through that barricade multiple times, and here is what you typically see. Now, typically, one Capitol police officer is in front of the vehicle barricade, approaching cars and pedestrians, basically checking in on their passes, the color-coded passes. Now, there's usually one Capitol police officer behind the barricade, and to the left or the northeast, you typically see National Guard soldiers, about 4 or 6 of them in a group. They're usually just there observing, not particularly engaging with people coming in and out. Now, because that section of Delaware Avenue remains closed going to the north from Constitution Avenue, the car you see there would actually have had to have turned pretty quickly from Constitution Avenue to get to that vehicle barricade, and effectively very suddenly, because they wouldn't have been able to get up to speed along Delaware Avenue. Now, we also noticed that DC Metropolitan Police and the U.S. Park Police had a helicopter that landed in that area. Really quick response. Now, in a sense, this comes after the congressional hearings and the FBI really highlighted how the pipe bombs that were deployed just hours before the insurrection were served as a diversionary tactic. Now, what happened is that diversionary tactic worked. You had the RNC and the DNC where you had U.S. Capitol Police back in the morning of January 6th. U.S. Capitol Police sent officers over there, and that meant that they weren't there guarding the perimeter. So it could be certain that it was on the mind of acting Capitol Police Chief Yogananda Pittman, because she had to keep her forces eyes forward while also bringing in other officers from other agencies to help support and help look at the surrounding area. So you also take a look at the vehicle barricades. The vehicle barricades are there to prevent an Oklahoma City-style bomb attack, which, as our crews in the field noted, was one of the first things that police officers checked right there in that car. So reporting live, Nathan Baca, WUSA 9.
Yeah, that's one thing that authorities have been very deliberate in talking about over the past few weeks, the ability to bring in a massive amount of reinforcements to back up any potential situation that happens. But this was a great way to sort of lay out where everyone was and how it happened. Nathan, we appreciate that. I want to go back live to the scene there along Constitution in Delaware, because that car that had been driven by the suspect, you can see it is up now on a wrecker, MPD wrecker, and prepared to be towed away, likely taken to an evidence processing facility where they will look over that vehicle a little more closely. How this affects the opening, reopening, or not of Constitution Avenue, obviously still too early to tell at this point, but they are making inroads in this investigation. Having the car taken away from the scene will mean a different posture there at the scene. Perhaps even before the end of the night, we could see crime scene tape coming down, and perhaps even Constitution Avenue once again reopening to vehicle traffic.
Joined now by Everett Sesker, a security analyst. Everett, good afternoon to you.
Oh, good afternoon to you.
It has no doubt been a tense afternoon now with this investigation currently taking place at the U.S. Capitol. I want to get your thoughts about what happened today, and then really what will U.S. Capitol Police, the FBI, and other agencies will need to do differently to prevent what we saw today from happening again?
Well, let me first just express my condolences to the U.S. Capitol Police family and to the family of the officer who unfortunately succumbed to his injuries as a result of this incident. Today is really a tragic day for them. But let me just say this. I think they've learned a great deal from January the 6th. Although this did not end the way people would have hoped for an incident like this to end, but they did do their job. They prevented this particular individual from entering the Capitol, and that's the main function of the Capitol Police. So they were able to stop him. But as far as this goes, when you're dealing with a lone actor, they're kind of hard to detect, because you might have some individual that has some kind of ill will towards the Capitol, towards senators or representatives, and he acts on his own. There is no organizing. There is nothing. He simply jumps in his car and he takes off. So those are kind of hard to detect, But the more organized ones, where individuals are making phone calls, funds are being transferred back and forth, and communication is happening, those are the ones that, are I'm not going to say easy, but they're you can detect those a lot faster. But as far as like today go, I think they did what they were supposed to do. They prevented this individual from entering the grounds. The individual exited his vehicle, and from what I understand, he brandished a weapon. Officers trained, returned fire, and the suspect was taken down.
There's already conversations regarding security at the Capitol. Some are speculating that if that additional perimeter of fencing that was just removed a few weeks ago, that had that additional perimeter of fencing been up still, that potentially it could have averted what we saw here today. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, it's easy to, I guess, second guess, what's going on, what they've been doing, how they've been protecting the Capitol. But in my opinion, I don't think it. If somebody wants to attack the Capitol, so they would attack the outer perimeter fence, and you possibly could have still had the same incident occur. So, at some point, I think the outer perimeter fence, yes, it will come down, and then they'll just strengthen the regular perimeter that they have.
If you were consulting with MPD, with Capitol Police, what things would you be looking at right now?
I guess I would be looking at, I think I would be probably setting up some type of information center. I think something where people can call call in and say, hey, my nephew, my brother or something, he's been acting strange. He's been acting strange about what's going on in Congress, and he's taken off. They got to be able to get that information readily. But what I do like today is I see a coordinated effort with MPDC and the U.S. Capitol Police. Capitol Police, they gave a brief explanation of what happened, and then after that, you see D.C. Metropolitan Police, they're taking over with the investigation, which they should because they have the expertise in that area. So I think the coordination is definitely changing between those two agencies, and I think it's changing for the better.
All right. Everett Sesker, security analyst, joining us this evening. Everett, thank you so much. We appreciate your insight.
Thank you.
WUSA 9 will have continuing coverage of today's murder of a police officer at the Capitol. We'll bring you more throughout tonight's show, and you can get the latest by downloading our mobile app and heading over to our website, WUSA9.com.
So our Verify team is here to look at the viral claims you see online. Tonight we're answering this. Did Nike sue singer Lil Nas X over a pair of sneakers?
Cold tonight, really cold. Look at these numbers. Outside of the Beltway, into the 20s, right around freezing in D.C., but warmer weather is coming our way. All that coming up.